Hello and welcome to Reaching the Darkness, a show that seeks to shine God's light in some of the darkest places on earth. I'm your host, Scott Goldbach, and along with my beautiful wife and co-host, Leslie, our goal would be to bring you the people and ministries that are making an impact in God's kingdom. Our hope is that you'll be inspired, encouraged, and even challenged to see where God is calling you to make a difference in the lives of others.
Today we're happy to have our friend Grant Logsdon of Unreached 4K with us. Grant's ministry is dedicated to reaching the world's most unreached with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Grant, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Grant, please tell our listeners about your ministry, what inspired you to start Unreached 4K, and how your journey began.
Well, I started doing mission work back in 2005 in Honduras. Took my family, and it was what you would call, I guess, a rookie mission trip where you do a lot of painting and construction and VBS and helping the kids and things like that. So we started working with some pastors up in the mountains, and I noticed that the pastors needed a lot of training. They were all from Catholic backgrounds, and so I started doing a men's discipleship conference every year, but that would help a little bit, but once a year is just not enough. So a friend of mine named Nate Brady with Chosen People International, they're based in Guatemala. It's a nonprofit, but they send national professors to remote villages in Central America to train pastors. And I just happened to run into him. And so we had 18 pastors that we were working with. So we spent about $500 a month for travel and materials and food and housing and things. But all 18 pastors received a 2-year Bible school diploma. So they were so excited about that. And it really did help the churches start to grow there. Well, about 10 years later, in about 2015, I began traveling with Gary Burkett, which I think was on your show last month. So I started traveling to India. We started doing the Jesus Film Project. What we did, we took several projectors, speakers, and amplifiers, and this was, 10 years ago? So the technology wasn't quite like it is today, so we took a lot of projectors, speakers, amplifiers, and all the technology we needed, and we'd show the Jesus film basically on rooftops and in alleyways in New Delhi, basically. And if you're familiar with anyone who's a Hindu or the Hindu religion, you know that they have multiple gods. Most people say they have about 330 million gods, and they spend their whole life trying to appease their gods, trying to make their gods happy so their children will be healthy, their crops will grow, and but it just doesn't work. But when we showed the Jesus film and they saw that there's a God who created them in his image, and they're God that loves them with an everlasting love, they begin weeping, and they just come to Christ so quick. That's why the house church movement is growing rapidly in India. And then we started working in the slums with the Dalits. They're the untouchables, which nobody wants anything to do with. So we would take them food and clothes and things like that. And I think we made a few prison visits in India as well. So that's pretty much how we got started.
Your organization is named Unreached 4K. What does 4K signify, and how does that guide your mission?
Well, everybody asks this. It's one of those questions where everybody thinks, where in the world did you get that name from? But I used to research a lot with Global Frontier Missions and Joshua Project and others, and they all agree that there's about 8.1 billion people on the planet right now. And about 3.42 billion are unreached. And an unreached people group is a group of people with less than 2% evangelical Christian influence. So what a people group is, it's a group of people that with a common language, customs, traditions. So these people have little to no access to the gospel. And it really broke my heart when I thought about this. I thought there's over 17,000 people groups on the planet, and over 7,000 of them are separated from Christ. And they've never heard the gospel. They don't know the gospel. And the problem is very few people are going to reach them. And so I started researching more and more, and especially as Gary and I were going through Uganda, I started seeing that there was an unreached people group just about an hour north of where we were traveling through. They were called the Newbies, Nubi, and they're Muslims. There was 38,000 of them, and there were 0 believers, and no one is taking the gospel to them. So I thought, well, okay, we need to do something. So that's when we started taking the gospel to them. But what Unreached 4K stands for, back to your question, is the 4,000. It's 4K. K stands for 1,000. So the Unreached 4K stands for the 4,000 unreached people groups. If you separate them not by country boundaries. If they're separated by country boundaries, there's a little over 7,000 unreached people groups. But if you don't separate them by boundaries, and here's an example, the newbies, there are 38,000 newbies in Uganda, and there's 23,000 in Kenya. Well, Joshua Project says that's 2 people groups. But if you don't count it as 2 people groups, count it as 1 people group, they all have the same culture, language, traditions. There's about a little over 4,000, about 4.4 thousand unreached people groups in our world today if you don't count them, if you don't separate them by their boundaries.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. 42% of the planet is wondering who Jesus is.
Wow. Grant, you're not just preaching, you're planning and equipping. How do you identify and support local church leaders in these communities?
Well, I think the hardest thing is to find the right person, and Gary would say the same thing.
We agree.
You want a person of integrity, because we've had people. Because if, for one thing, we're Mzungus in Africa, we're white people, we're rich in their eyes, and they will say anything to be a ministry partner or a pastor. They may not know anything, but they will agree with everything you say, because they know that I always call it the Robin Hood effect. It's okay to steal from the rich because we're poor, okay? And that's kind of the way they look at it. But once I find that person of integrity, then I let them in charge. It's not my church. It's their church, and they're in charge. So now I have Pastor Joffrey. He is our Unreached 4K Uganda director. He chooses the pastors. He chooses the leaders. He trains them. So he's the only one that has a Uganda Baptist Seminary degree. So he is in charge, because he'll ask me a lot of times, what should I do about this? I'll say, you're in charge. What do you think? I'm 8,000 miles away. I don't know this person. So I try to leave it in his hands, and he's doing a fantastic job. And but he always calls me and asks my advice. And I let him answer first. That's rule number 1. Don't answer first, because they'll say, what do you think about this? I say, well, you tell me what you think first.
Right.
And then I let them answer, and then I'll tell them my answer. So me and Joffrey are on the same page. And he's the first person I've found in probably 6-7 years that is on the same page with me, that is seeking the same thing that I'm seeking. Gospel preaching churches.
And that's important.
That's very important, to find that one person that is a person of integrity.
And that's real important when you're going into these countries where you don't know anybody.
Yeah, I don't know
Or
them.
the culture, or the traditions.
We see them on Facebook, and a matter of fact, the pastor we have in Ukraine, Pastor Paul Dudka, I met him on Facebook. And I'm thinking, okay, is he for real or not? I don't know. So I don't send him money until after the war started in February 2022. We sent one of our board members there, Joe Nell. Joe spent 2 weeks with him, taking food to the poor, taking care of orphans, widows, and refugees, preaching the gospel, doing camps. And he said, this guy's for real. Yeah. He's got 5 churches. He's got a radio broadcast. He teaches at the Bible college. So we're going to be going back there in a couple weeks to visit him and help him out.
So as we wrap up the segment, is there a story from Uganda that really captures the heart of what Unreached 4K is all about?
There is one story. The first one has to do with a lady named Fatuma. She was a Muslim. So our evangelism approach is a little bit different than most. Most missionary approaches, they look for a person of peace. They establish a house church. When the church is overgrown, then they build them a building, and then they start their church. What we do, we go door to door and we share the gospel. People will come to Christ. We'll set up a tent. They'll come and they'll come to Bible study each night. And as this church grows, then we'll buy land and build a building. So our approach is a little bit different. But we were sharing the gospel probably about a year and a half ago at a medical camp. We did 2 medical camps because it's a big need they have. And there was a lady named Fatima who was there, and she was helping, and she was a Muslim. And so I look over and I see Connie Burkett sharing the gospel with her.
Of course.
Yes. Everybody knows that's going to happen sooner or later.
We love Connie.
Yeah. And, well, it turns out that we come back home, and about a month later, the pastor of the church says that Fatima became a Christian. And I'm thinking, wow, that's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Well, about a month after that, Fatima brings a cardboard box full of witchcraft items. Ooh. She was a witch.
Oh, my goodness.
And so what the church did, they took that box, they burnt everything in it, they dug a hole, and they buried it in front of the church.
Wow.
And so now she leads the children's ministry, and every time we go, she is right by my side. She loves the kids. She teaches the children. We bought her a children's Bible in her language. But her husband, Mohammed, became a Christian as well. But the problem is he lost his job. If a Muslim becomes a Christian, he's going to get fired. So we do send a little support, just about $27, maybe $30 a month to Fatima, and that helps them supplement their garden. So most people in Uganda, they rely on their garden for food. They have 2 growing seasons, 2 wet seasons, 2 dry seasons. But Fatima, she's just a special person. We call her Shortcut. She has a nickname. Because
oh my gosh.
I actually went to her house and shared the gospel with her and her husband. And I was headed back to the church, and she showed me the shortcut through a cornfield to get back to the church. So she has a nickname of Shortcut.
You've been listening to Reaching the Darkness. We're going to take a short break now, but when we get back, we'll continue our conversation with our friend Grant Logsdon of Unreached 4K. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
In a tiny remote village halfway around the world, a little girl prays for food, a safe place to sleep, and someone who cares. At Amazing Orphans International, your gift answers those prayers. You don't just sponsor a child. Your support empowers entire communities to provide food, shelter, medical care, education, and Christ-centered values that build the Christian leaders of tomorrow. Answer that little girl's prayers today by visiting amazingorphans.org. That's amazingorphans.org.
Welcome back to Reaching the Darkness. We've been talking with our friend Grant Logsdon of Unreached 4K. Grant, one of the things you're doing that I absolutely love is reaching people around the world with social media to share the gospel. Can you share with our listeners how that works and how this approach has expanded your reach?
Well, it's an amazing thing. It started about 6 years ago. I was on the Joshua Project, and I saw someone make a comment about sending the Jesus film out on social media, and I thought, well, that sounds like a great idea, because if you figure up a plane ticket, you figure up your travel, your food, your lodging, and all of that, you can spend a lot of money on mission work. But I can spend $30 and reach 400,000 people really quick. Okay, so
I think it's genius.
It works great. The only problem is it's like dropping bombs. I don't see the results.
Right. But you're planting seeds.
We're planting seeds. But the way it works, it's very easy. And I always tell people, if you're handicapped, if you're older and you're sitting in a rocking chair all day, don't sit and watch soap operas. Don't watch TV. You can get in your computer, and within maybe an hour, you can send the Jesus film out to 500,000 people. It's that quick, and it costs $30.
Well, we're going to switch gears a little here, Grant, and understand you just returned from Uganda. Are there any moments that stood out to you that you'd like to share about that trip?
Yes. One of the most amazing things, we spent the first 3 days, I think 4 days. I've attended my first Ugandan wedding that Saturday and Sunday. It was amazing.
Fun.
Yeah, and then that was at one of our churches. So then we went to the other 2 churches, and then we went to Pashwa. When we got to Pashwa, I was amazed because we pulled up, and there were probably 200 people having a parade celebrating our arrival. And I've never had that happen. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. And they were riding around on motorcycles and saying, "Welcome, Papa Grant. Welcome, Papa Grant."
Oh my
is so
gosh,
cool.
that's humbling.
It is. It was. It was amazing. So Pashwa is in desperate need of the gospel. And that is our dream, is to start planting churches in Pashwa. So that was a special moment for me. I mean, it really did touch me to know that they were that excited to see the people who built their new church, because they were excited about it. They didn't have a church.
Right.
And these people wanted a church. And so we set up a tent for the first, I guess, month or so. We set up 2 tents. It was a rainy season. And people started coming to church. And they kept asking, "Are you going to leave?" Because they thought we were going to set up a church, get their money and take off. Right. And our pastor, our church planner, said, "No, we're going to build a church." And I didn't have any money. And I didn't.
Been there many times.
Yeah, I've been there many times. And I've been all of a sudden a church in Mount Pleasant, Kentucky. They said, "We heard you need a church." I said, "Yes, we do. You need a church building." I should separate church from church building. You need a church building. And they said, "We've got $15,000 we'd like to give you for that." I said, "Fantastic." So it takes them about a month and a half, and that church is up. And what I didn't realize is Hoima is in an earthquake zone. It's right on the edge of Lake Albert between Congo and Uganda. And so their village engineer had to come and make some changes as far as the rebar and brick and things like that. So it's cost a little more than what we thought. It always does. I don't care what they say something cost, double it.
Yeah,
that's going to be.
We've run
you can
into
count on
that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, the church is done. It's got a roof on it. It's got sides. We're just waiting for, I think, a couple iron doors, finish the floor and the stucco and paint, and then it'll be done. But at least they have a place to get out of the rain now. So they're so excited.
Grant, looking forward, what are your future plans for Unreached 4K?
Well, our original plan was to reach the unreached, and we feel like we've done that with the newbies, going from 0 believers to 2.5 believers percent-wise. So our new mission, our new goal is to reach Pashwa, because there is no gospel in Pashwa.
For our listeners inspired by what you shared today, Grant, how can they get involved or support your mission?
Probably the best way is our website, and the website is Unreached, the letter 4, and the letter K. Let me say that again. It's through our website at unreached4k.com. If you go to that website, you can contact me. You can see our newsletters. You can see what we're doing, the churches we planted. You can see the Skills Training Center. And then there's also a donation page where you can specify your donation. If you want to donate a sewing machine, you want to donate to Paul Dudka in Ukraine, you want to donate to a water well, that's fine. That's absolutely great. But also my phone number, 502-836-7576. That's a great way to contact me. But that's all on the website. So if you go to the website, you can contact me anytime. You can send me an email, and I will respond quickly. So I don't hesitate. I'm not one to wait a couple days. I will wait about 10 minutes, and then I'm back to you.
Brother, what would you say to someone to encourage them to get into ministry work?
One of my favorite books, it's called Just Do Something. I don't know if you're familiar with Kevin DeYoung. It's a little thin book. He says, a lot of us, we say, "Oh, I don't have any talents and skills. I'm not a pastor. I don't have to share the gospel. I'll spend my time. I think I'll vacation at Disney World. I'm going to live the dream. I'm going to retire and collect seashells, Well, in this book, he says, just do something. Okay, your neighbor's sick, give them some food, share the gospel with them, pray for them. The homeless people on the street, take them some food. You probably don't want to give them money, but just take them to McDonald's, set them down, and look them in the eye, because they're a human being created in God's image. Right. Look them in the eye and say, "What's your name?" "My name is Grant. What's yours?" "Tell me your story." And then listen to their story. And that's what we're called to do. Just do something. And it doesn't take a skill to do that. I don't have to go to seminary to learn how to listen to somebody's story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is one of my favorite books. It's a little book. It's just probably 100 pages. Just do something. And that's the theme of the book, is just do something.
Exactly. So how can people be praying for you in your ministry, Grant?
I think the main thing is for wisdom and discernment, because I tell you what, Satan is attacking us so much, and especially in Pashwa and different places where he has a rule. He has this almost like casting a spell on the people. Satan's ruling there. So we're interrupting that. So Satan's attacking us hot and heavy. So pray for us to have wisdom and discernment, because I'm very gullible. Okay, I'm in a culture where I don't understand what they're doing. They say things, I don't know what they mean, and it's easy to make mistakes. And anybody in ministry has made a dozen mistakes.
That's true.
We learn from those mistakes, and we go on, and we don't give up. So many times I've been prone to just throw in the towel and say, okay, I quit. I'm done.
I tell people all the time, ministry is messy.
It is. Ministry is messy.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be. Jesus said it's going to be messy. He said you're going to be persecuted. You're going to suffer for my name's sake. He didn't say it's going to be fun in your best life now. He said it's going to be tough. It's going to be messy. And but just pray for wisdom and discernment on our part, that we'll know what to do, where to go, who to minister to, and how to minister to them.
As we conclude, what's one message you'd like to leave with our listeners about the importance of pursuing the unreached?
I think the one message would be just don't go to church on Sunday, check the box, and go home. Don't do that. That's not Christianity is a lifestyle. It's a way of life, and it's your whole life. It's not just Sunday. It's not just Wednesday night. It's just not one or 2 days a week. And it's not just for the people with a high IQ and the seminary degrees. It's for everybody. I don't care who you are, you can do something. So share the gospel with someone. And one thing that we talked about, a matter of fact, this morning we were at the bridge. We have a local ministry where about the past 6 years, we've been giving out tracts and Bibles at the Big Four Bridge. And we were talking about this morning, that you don't have to have a seminary degree or high IQ. You just do something, open your mouth. If you can't, I have a couple people in my church that can't even talk. And I told them, I said, you can put a gospel tract in your hand it